What's up, everyone? Today I have a special treat. I'm going to show you guys a behind the scenes from a couple of months ago of our morning meeting on our sales team where I cover a concept of state control to our sales reps. You see, starting out in the beginning, they had an amazing week, and then there was kind of a dip in sales. And there's always kind of that pivotal point where you're at the top when it comes to sales, and then somebody passes you, right? Sometimes you fall into a rut. So what do you do when it comes to state control? And I share an amazing story of a tip that I learned back when I was doing sales actively, being number one on the team and learning from amazing people in the industry. And what's cool is after we covered this, the next month, we fell only one deal short of $100,000 in revenue doing completely cold outbound. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Starr, and I actually teach closing sales, but primarily to people who are doing outbound, things like appointment setting and then closing deals, completely from doing things like cold calling and warm calling and adding it to the arsenal. I've worked with multiple 7 and 8 figure influencers on training their sales teams and putting these processes in place. And in fact, after we came one deal short of hitting 6 figures that month, the next month we cracked 100K, did over $108,000 in revenue completely from outbound. Yes, picking up the phone, dialing without being salesy, without being pitchy, just literally making a really good offer, holding frame, and also giving value, are able to book appointments and close deals. So I wanted you guys today to be able to get value from what I covered with my sales team so that you guys can share it and implement it with yourselves or anyone else on your team so they can get help. If you guys find this valuable, make sure you guys let me know in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I hope you guys enjoy the training.
Cool. So I think a good topic to address, obviously, if you guys noticed this week, we started out with a lot of booked appointments, like strategies. And, especially with Chris and Kirkland and you guys kind of going back and forth and being at the top. Now you guys are experiencing a dip this week, right? You'll notice that there's a dip down in sales. And when I was looking at the numbers, it reminded me of something that happened earlier in my sales career when I was working with a guy who brought up a really good point. I was on his team, and I was really good at tonality, reframing, and he sat me down and he saw like there was kind of like the same thing, like a dip in sales. And he pulled me aside and he said, dude, he's like, you sound just like me. He's like, you have all the skills in the world. You have the tonality. And you have the potential to be great. He said, but but there's different levels of state control. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, like right now, he's like, I'd say you're about a level 2 to 3. And he said a level 4, and he gave examples. And I've never thought about it this way before. And he told me he's like, when it comes to state control, he's like not being emotional to the outcome, which means you'll get to a period in your career of sales where literally when you have a win, you guys know how like sometimes when you got close, you're like, and let's say you break a record, you're on and you guys are like number 1 on the team, y'all feel the rush and excitement, right?
Yeah.
You're like, heck yeah, I'm killing it. Right. Well, what happens is because you feel that rush and excitement, that is an emotional response to the outcome. Right. Which means if the opposite happens and you don't hit that same level every week, what do you think happens to you? The same emotional response will happen, exactly the opposite. And I remember, because I was on, I don't know if you guys ever heard of a Clubhouse. I was in a Clubhouse room one time. Have you guys ever heard of a marketer named Billie Jean? Billie Jean is marketing.
Yep.
So I was invited to come and speak. My friend, actually, I trained her team. She's an influencer by the name of Brittany Michael Chuck. She's on my podcast. I trained her sales team and everything is really great. And I spoke in her mastermind. So she saw that I was in the room. She invited me up on to speak on Clubhouse. And then she invited Billie Jean. And there was another guy that was there. I had no idea who this individual was. And, really, he wasn't talking much. But this guy was like literally a whale in investing, had his own company that like IPO'd, like went public on the stock exchange. And so he's sitting there answering questions. He's telling these stories. And he's talking about how the most amount of money he made one day was after he went public. In a day, the stock rose up. And at the end of the day, he's sitting there and just chilling with his wife. And he goes, I made like literally instantly in a day, he made $300 million. Like imagine that, like literally just sitting there being $300 million. And then he's just like, and he just nonchalantly went to his wife and he's like, babe, so you're not going to believe this. We made like 300 million. She goes, oh, wow, that's awesome. He's like, yeah. And he just gave himself a pat on the back and then just like would just went about his normal workday. And then Billie Jean was like, dude, are you freaking kidding me? He's like, what? You didn't, he's like, you didn't celebrate that shit. Like he was talking about like, celebrating all his wins and stuff and being on. And the guy was like so indifferent. And then all of a sudden in my mind, right, I was like, wait a second, like Billie Jean's very successful. He's here, but this is a guy that's like, you know, big time, right? And it made me think back to that advice I got on state control. I was like, this is a guy that is just so indifferent and tuned to success of his wins and his loss that his state control is just so at peak that he knows not to be like, let it affect him of like, cool, I made, yeah, exactly. Malik said in the chat, level 4, baby, right? This guy's like 300 million and just like, okay, cool, whatever. Like he knows what he's just doing what has to be done without having an up and down fluctuation of emotional response. And it's not easy. And I'm telling you from experience, getting to that level is not easy, right? I mean, you're talking years of doing sales, interacting with the team and getting to that level. But like the reason why I'm telling you this is because you want to be aware of like where you're at, right? The first one is like you're always level 1, like a low level 1. I'm trying to remember exactly how he explained all the different levels, so don't quote me on this. But is basically you're just a crazy emotional response. Like you have ups and downs. You're like you're literally in the weeds, being negative. If people aren't interested and things aren't going your way, you're literally like you just crumble, right? That's like level 1. Level 2 is like you're okay. That you have to be consistent and you're doing what needs to be done, but you still have a crazy reaction when you have wins, right? I don't remember what level 3 was, but I know like level 4 was literally like the peak. That's where you do exactly what needs to be done. You're just doing it consistently. And like, guys, here's a prime example of level 4 state control. You guys remember that what's the craziest Super Bowl moment in history, right? Tom Brady against the Atlanta Falcons when he was down, right? I think they're up, 28-3? It was like 28-3. And he made the most impossible comeback in the second half I've ever seen in my life. Like I thought they were done. There's no, like, even I believe there's no shot in hell. And he literally pulled off the impossible, came back and won the game. Afterwards, everyone was asking him what was going through your mind. Like, how did you handle that? Like that amount of pressure and stuff. And he literally responded to them and was like, he's like, it wasn't about pressure. Like, I just knew that every single, he's told himself in the locker room, he's like, guys, we literally do this over and over. Every play that we've practiced in practice, every time we've thrown the football, every play we've ran in practice, like literally, he wasn't even focused on what happened next. He wasn't looking 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plays in the future to make the comeback. If he did, he would have cracked under pressure. He just said, all I know is the play right now that we've done a million times, running the play perfectly. Like, didn't even think about play 2 and 3. He was just in the moment doing exactly what needed to be done, literally controlled his state because he knew that if he would have been emotional and let him crack under pressure, there's no way he would have performed. So he literally just knew like, hey, I've been doing this a long time. Don't get emotional about the outcome. Just do the same thing that you've been doing for freaking years. Do it well, just like you practice, and we can make a comeback and succeed. That's like level 4 state control, right? Now, obviously, like that's not a bash on Billie Jean like whatsoever. The dude's like highly successful, right? Like I'm a firm believer at the level that I'm at, where if I sold like $1 million or $5 million or $10 million, $12 million deal, if I'm being honest, would I go and celebrate that? Yeah. Right. I'd be like, hell yeah, let's go out, guys. I'm proud of the team. Let's go pop some bottles. Let's enjoy the night. Let's enjoy the weekend and then get back to business. Right. I'm not at level 4. I'm aware of that, but just be aware of like where you guys are now. So if you're looking, you have a dip, don't let it affect you negatively. You have to understand there's going to be ups and downs, and you have to control not being on the leaderboard, not performing like you did last week, because the worst thing you can do is go into a negative spiral and have the opposite effect of that rush. So celebrate your wins, yes, but don't get so excited. You guys can ask Malik every single time when he has a call, and he's like super pumped. He's like, this is a whale. Like, this is it. Like, I have a good feeling about this. And then Malik, what's my response every single time?
Just follow the process.
Just follow the process. Don't get emotional. Don't get your hopes up. That's what I tell him. He's like, yes. Oh, it's not about not getting my hopes up. I'm just being positive. I'm being optimistic. And I'm like, right. But trust the process. Understand that's a numbers game. If you fill up your pipeline, I'm like, who cares? Because I know that if you have that mentality, if you get your hopes up from an emotional state and then it doesn't work out and you're like, man, I really thought this was going to be a deal. Then what happens? the opposite. Right. So always be aware of being able to control yourself at an emotional state. And I'll never forget like that advice that was given to me. Right. And so I thought about it, I was like, oh, he's right. Like I get super excited and I got super pumped. And then ever since then, whenever it happens, I was emotionally, I was psychologically aware of it. And I would control my emotional state and be like, okay, hey, listen, I'm closing deals. I'm booking appointments. I'm bringing in revenue because this is what I do. Right. There's no like, oh, like, right. Like, sometimes, feel a rush. I'll feel it. And then I think in my head and I bring it down and I'm like, you're just doing what you do best. The same thing, consistency every single day. And that's why I drill and say, guys, it's just about the numbers. You guys make it about the numbers and take emotion out of the equation. You're going to win. You're not going to have this emotional like roller coaster. And that comes with time and experience. It is not easy to control your emotional state, right? Because emotions can't just be the negative. It's also the positive. Right? Imagine this, every time you had a win, if you got super emotional and you had a low level emotional state and then you guys would close a deal and then you went out and celebrate, what are you doing with your money? You literally go out and blow it, right? That's an emotional response. Now it may not be like you're excited, but it's still a negative emotional response to an outcome because every time you win and you have a jump and you close a deal, you go out and you celebrate, right? So that's still not serving you. So that's what it means by the different levels of emotional state. So I thought I wanted to share that with you guys, just kind of looking at the numbers and make sure that you guys are aware of it and don't let the rise of how you guys killed it last week and then what's happening now just affect that. Cool?
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.